Hey, welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. We're going to get a chance to visit with Corey Mock today. Corey is a longtime state legislator out of Jamestown, or out of Grand Forks, I should say. And we'll get a chance to get his take on how the legislative session went. Also, trauma. We're going to talk about what happened during all of this pandemic. Also, North Dakota tourism, or I should say historical society, which ties into tourism. I always think of it that way. But first, Rick Jacobson. Now, I've known Rick Jacobson for quite a while. Rick was superintendent in the Waimea Public School system when I first met him, and then he moved on to Wahpeton, just a couple miles down the road. Let me just be upfront. I consider him one heck of a superintendent. So any of you who think I might have a bias, maybe I got a bias. Let's get to him. Superintendent Jacobson, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Well, thanks, Joe. I think I can say it's probably been close to 25 years we've known each other.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
I know. And I tell you, you don't have an easy job. I mean, you don't. In instances like the one that we're about to talk about don't make it any easier. I get that. But when you have staff that are in a room teaching, you're bound to have some discussions and some issues like this. Can you tell the individuals out there here on Beck News what happened?
Well, we were brought. It was brought to our attention about Tuesday of last week through a Facebook post that we had a teacher that reenacted the George Floyd situation. Now, at the time, we didn't know what that means, but I'm sure everybody, when they hear that, they were feeling everything that they've heard, on the ground, behind your back, with your hands, kneeling on his back of his neck, the whole thing. When it was brought to our attention, we met with the individual and her husband, and they shed light on what it was, and because we were not aware of it. And so the elementary principal, Jake Dodge, did investigate Wednesday, talked to 14 kids plus a teacher. The one thing that was consistent was that, there was something that took place in terms of a discussion item activity in class. We can't deny that. We're not going to. It was unfortunate. I don't think there was any malice intent behind it from her point. From what we gathered, a student asked a question. They cut. However it transpired, kids were on the ground doing it, getting up, checking the pulse, whatever. Obviously, probably not the right thing to do based on the sensitivity of the issue that we're dealing with nationwide. But it did happen in one of our classrooms. We have a 5-block system with 5th grade. It only happened in one of the blocks, so it wasn't part of her lesson plan, but it came up as a discussion. A kid asked a question, and it was a good question. It's probably going to be a historical issue talk about down the road, and I think she tried to talk about how unfair it was, what he must have felt like, and moving forward, how do we make that where people feel comfortable? If we took 14 kids and we had, 1, 2, 3 that maybe didn't know about it, and one that felt uncomfortable about it, then we have to be more sensitive to topics like that, and that's what our plan is. Moving forward, to talk with our staff, because we do have a diverse student population down here. We know that. And so what we think is normal may not be normal, and we need to be just aware of that and how to move forward.
I know from watching your press conference yesterday that you've involved others. You're doing a level of investigation and a level of, I don't know if investigation is too strong a word, but you're certainly having individuals talk to folks that are experts in this area. You describe to people what's going on there?
Yeah, our elementary principal did the investigation, and he reviewed what we were told. So it just confirmed. So nobody was lying about what had happened. The individual that made the Facebook, I want to say no. What she put down, whether people liked it or not, really doesn't matter. It was the truth. We had something go on. We just didn't know what the extent of it was. But at our press conference yesterday, I have a staff member, Dr. David Woods. He's a high school English teacher. He was here my first year, 11 years ago, went up to Fargo to the alternate Woodrow Wilson. So he got to deal with a different population of students as well, and it was a good experience. He's an Afro-American teacher, married to a Caucasian, another teacher we have. So he's got a good base. He understands about it. Dave and I talked about this for 3 days about just what's going on. How do we navigate through it? And I said, hey, would you be part of the solution for us? How do we move forward and make this a very teachable moment for our staff, not just the kids, but for our staff? I mean, our teachers understand the background of most of the kids they have. They maybe not have seen where they live, but they understand. We have a 50, 60% poverty level. Our teachers are aware that not every kid has a silver spoon feeding them all the time. So they're willing, and I think are ready to get information that can help them deal with kids of all ethnic backgrounds. And I mean, that's what we want to do. We don't know what that's going to look like, but David Woods is going to help us hopefully get to that point through his experiences. He's been in, I think, Valley City, he said, Northern Cass, talking about this very same thing in past years. So he's got some experience, he's got some resources. We're willing to do it. We have been transparent with this whole thing since we found it out. We're not trying to make light of it. We just want to make kids feel comfortable when they come to school every day. And I don't want to have teachers feel scared about having important conversations about history, current events, things like that. I think it's important that we can figure out what has to be done if we know something needs to be talked about, but like this one, how could we have done it better? And right now, I think it's new to us, but it certainly wasn't like we were trying to degrade anybody. I think it was more of, if you know the teacher, she is just a very sweet, soft-spoken person. I think she was trying to make him be empathetic to what he was maybe experiencing, not even that we know, just from her own experience. And I've said yesterday, I could have very easily, if I was subbing that classroom, I probably would have done the same thing, not even thinking about it. And it's an awareness for me as well that I got to try and get people to where they are more comfortable and maybe be more mindful of what we need to do before we do something, unfortunately. But
Well, Barb Mickelson, the teacher on this instance, fifth grade teacher, obviously you placed her on administrative leave while all avenues are looked at. Can I just say this, Rick? I've talked to people about Ms. Mickelson, and they love her. I mean, there are individuals that have gone through that school system. That she's no rookie teacher. I mean, they believe she's one heck of an educator. So I know that has to weigh into this as well.
Yep, but she is. I mean, her kids love her. We just put her on administrative leave until we sort through this, and because we didn't know. And we just had to make sure that we're doing the right thing. We've been in contact with her, so she's aware of it. Yeah, obviously she misses her kids in class and just feels horrible that it even happened. Just didn't think it was going to create as much scuttlebutt as it did, but she understands it. And we're just waiting for the right time to do the next step.
So when you say that it wasn't someone kneeling on someone's neck, that it was a reenactment, what exactly happened? Do you have that understanding by now?
Well, I for the most part, I believe we do. My interpretation when I hear George Floyd reenactment is, being pinned down on the ground, face down, hands behind your back, saying you can't breathe, pushing on it, whatever. Kids, yeah, they got down on the ground, hands behind their back, and then got up, and then I think she had to maybe check their pulse or whatever to see how it would affect their breathing. So yeah, we realized that was happening, and if that was insensitive, then we take full responsibility for that to happen. Just then it's us being naive on how kids felt about it, and we need to be more culturally sensitive. That it was not meant. I think she was just trying to take it and say, can you imagine what he must have gone through? I mean, I think that's kind of the mindset she probably did, and tried to walk him through it as far as we know. Now, there were some inconsistencies on, what happened after that. Did they squeeze their neck? We don't know that for sure. And trying to confirm it with the kids and the teacher, and we're not trying to discredit anybody at all, because we know that this event, spontaneous, it just happened. I think a kid brought it up, and it just kind of joined in. That's just the way kids are. I mean, it's A lot of times kids just want to know. Some of the kids may not even have known about the George Floyd situation. So it could have been a little traumatic for some of those kids that were not aware, I feel bad for that. If that was what we caused some trauma on that, then that's where we got to be more culturally aware of how things affect certain people.
Two questions for you, Superintendent Jacobson. First, are you afraid at all that as someone who has to oversee a school system, you're going to have to oversee it based upon people's comments on Facebook? The other part to that, are you worried about what type of tone this sets when it comes to academic freedom?
Well, I would be lying if I wasn't concerned. I hope that we took the necessary action. I mean, we're not trying to make light of it. We owned up to that it did happen. So we're not trying to discredit anybody to say, well, that never happened. But I hope it doesn't go any farther. We can move on and we can start the planning for what we need to do for the teachers and that next year and make this right and just make us better. I mean, it's the only way we're going to improve on is give us an opportunity. And we're not going to be perfect. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have some periods of, okay, well, that was not the right thing. It's not that we're going to disregard what happened. That's not it.
I don't possibly see how you could have been more transparent. And so any individuals who would make an argument that you're trying to hide something, I don't see how that works out. From what I understand, without having to talk to Ms. Mickelson herself, the reputation that she has is not one of race baiting or being a racist in any way, shape, or form. So I hope everybody takes a step back and asks whether or not this was the right way to utilize a teaching moment, but realizes that she's a good instructor. And I hope you can get word to her on that. Rick.
Yeah, we hope so too. And she really wants to get back and deal with her kids. And she's not blaming any of the kids. It just the talk and it just one of those things that it just kind of mushroomed, unfortunately, and we had to deal with it. And I guess sometimes things like this hopefully make people better, school districts better, and that's what we're hoping for.
Superintendent Jacobson, thank you, sir. Thanks for spending some time going down the road with us.
Not a problem. Thanks, Joe, for having me on.
When we come back, Corey Mock, longtime legislator out of Grand Forks. Let's get his evaluation of the legislative session. Stick around.
Howdy, folks. It's a Canine Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Canine burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Good to have you still coming down the road with us. I'm going to bring in Corey Mock now. Corey is a state representative out of Grand Forks, someone whose career I've followed for a long time. And, Corey is one of those individuals that served in positions of leadership in the legislature, so he knows it inside and out. Representative Mock, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hey, thanks, Joel. It's good to join you as always.
The most obvious question in the world. Ready for it? How's it feel to be done?
It's amazing. Actually, chores. My wife Jeannie, she said when you get to about the 70th day, if we still haven't settled, her suggestion has been that legislative spouses replace the legislators on conference committees, and we'll all be home within a few hours. So, no, it's amazing.
I like her. I've always liked her, but now I really like her. I'm going to use that line. I mean,
absolutely. It's amazing how quickly things get settled. If everyone's saying, if you can, it'd be you get this, you get that, you're in timeout for acting that way. Everyone wrap up, go home. We've got chores to do.
You serve on one of the most important committees in the legislature. Nobody wants to single that out because every committee is important. I served there for 14 years. I get that. The truth of the matter is appropriations where money gets decided, and that's where the big things get decided. And so evaluate how North Dakota and the majority party, which is the Republican Party, did in terms of deciding where the money went.
Well, first of all, it was a monumental, historic session. It's the largest budget that we've ever passed, and it's going to continue. I think everyone looks at it. We're likely going to say the same thing every 2 years here on out. I'd be surprised if we ever pass a budget that is less spending than we did 2 years ago. I think a lot of us are surprised by what came out of it. We did pass, albeit a thinned down version, a watered down version of a bonding bill. We did make some pretty key investments. There's some missed opportunities, some low-hanging fruit that is going to be left to probably rot on the vine, or at least leave a lot of unanswered questions. We've appropriated some funds using the coronavirus relief dollars. There's a lot that is yet to be allocated. There wasn't a lot of authority given for us or direction by the legislature to use any new funds that come forward. And I think we are going to find ourselves in a precarious situation if we see major infrastructure funding coming from D.C. without having a concrete plan moving forward with how to spend it before we convene in 2023. So challenging session, but there was, I think we could all say that there was some wins, some disappointments, and there's a lot of room in between.
I'm not a big advocate for special sessions. Neither one of us are. I get that. But if you're going to have millions upon millions of dollars come into North Dakota through the CARES Act, then it seems to me that the legislature should determine where that money goes. It shouldn't be just left to the executive branch. And so, I guess I'm in favor of a special session. It's clear that you didn't have the exact directive of where the money had to go, Corey.
Right, and that was, you're exactly right. We were able to appropriate some specific items, but there is still so many unanswered questions coming from D.C., that we weren't able to give enough direction and to directly appropriate funds for immediate or specific use. And I don't want to see us abdicating that responsibility just to the governor, and it has nothing to do with the governor. It's any governor. That is a legislative function. It is something that we want to have all members of the legislature involved in. So even though most of the day-to-day work, the nitty-gritty of it, the details of those appropriations is done by the committee members, the whole legislature should have a say, especially when we're talking not just millions, but hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that could be coming to North Dakota between now and the next legislative session. So if it comes to that, we don't have a lot of days left. We have 4 that we can use before the end of 2022. But if it does happen, I hope that we are able to either convene in a special session and take immediate action, or work with the governor to call us back in a special session so proper discussion can be had.
You mentioned missed opportunities. What were they? What jumps into your mind right away when you say, look, this was something we easily could have done, and this is something we should have invested in?
Well, I think we could have done a lot more with the bonding bill. You know, there was a lot of strategic investments. You know, we made the bonding bill very, very specific in just a couple infrastructure projects, but there was a lot of proposals that would have freed up resources for additional water projects. We would have more physical infrastructure in our communities. Could have helped our political subdivisions, our cities, our counties. There was a lot of areas within just that proposal that were essentially scrapped and kicked off the table from the very beginning. And that's something that I think in time we're going to regret not doing more with this bonding proposal as we look back. And there's a lot of other things. We could have done more for higher education. I think a lot of the universities were looking at it. There wasn't as devastating or as difficult of a session as they'd had the last couple of years. However, doing more for strategic investments in higher ed, helping out students, lower income families, small businesses, and providing more opportunities. It's those little things that they add up to be a lot of missed opportunities when you look at what we did over the 76 days that we were there, and what was not addressed by the time the last gavel fell.
You mentioned higher education. I have to ask you about that in this sense that we used to totally gauge through the roundtable that was set up years ago so that higher ed wasn't coming back and each university or each college was making their pitch, that we set up a system of how they would be funded based upon performance and then left to the State Board of Higher Education. A lot of that was based upon butts in the seat. This COVID model now of distance education, are we ever going to be building a dormitory again on a campus of higher education?
We will, but the question is it going to be for expansion, or is it going to be replacing existing infrastructure? That's going to be yet to be decided. The one thing about COVID is it has given us by force one of the greatest pilot projects that you can imagine. And we're testing everything out from work from home, workplace flexibility, distance learning, distance education, all of these things. And we're not even at the halfway point on what lessons are going to be learned from a new reality that I don't think is going to be like this in the same way forever. But it certainly has forced us to adopt new technologies, to take new initiatives. The idea of having 11 public universities when you have this much technology available for distance learning. That question is absolutely going to come up. It's been lingering in the background. So it's going to rise. Someone's going to say, do we need to have 11 individual universities and colleges in this day and age? That's a fair question. I don't have a fair answer, but I do know that's going to be it's a question that's going to rise. Do we need to keep investing in physical infrastructure, new physical infrastructure, to expand our universities? I think there's a case we made for some of it, but we can be a lot more efficient with those dollars when we look at how those bucks are used. Does everyone have to be on campus, or do you have a model where students are on campus for part of the time? Do more with experiential learning and bundling that with distance learning through technology. So a lot of opportunities there.
Corey, you're always my go-to guy when it comes to some of the money that the state has been spending. When you say that record spending, I do know this. In the sessions that I served, we spent less than last time. I know that you're not exactly a tax and spend guy. You're very conservative when it comes to state dollars. But man, I don't think these guys would have wanted to be in a room with John Dorso, former Republican leader, when it comes to this spending, because for any conservative in this state, any of the Bastiat caucus who tells me that they're for less government and less government spending, they're going to have a hard time convincing me. Representative Mock, always good to talk to you. Thanks.
Likewise, Joel. So look forward to talking soon.
You bet. Dr. Shauna Springer is going to join us. Dr. Springer is a trauma expert and Stella chief psychologist. So the stress, it's National Nurses Week. Let's get to it when we come back here down the road.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks.
You know, this is a week we all should recognize. Dr. Shauna Springer is our guest now. Dr. Springer is a trauma expert and Stella chief psychologist. She's someone who can understand some of the stress that goes along with being a healthcare provider. It's National Nurses Week. As someone who's married to a nurse and has a daughter that works in a clinical setting as a nurse practitioner, trust me, I know what these folks go. That's not fair. I don't really know what these folks go through. I hear it, but I don't know that I can understand it as much as what someone like Dr. Springer can. Let's get a chance to visit with her. Dr. Springer, good, and thank you for coming down the road.
Good morning, Joel. It's good to be here.
When you think of National Nurses Week, what do you think of right away?
People that have strength that is impossible to put into words. And just as you said, it's so amazing to hear you say, I don't really understand it, but I understand that they have great strength. They are, in my world, wired like our warriors, and they do things that most of us can't do. So we definitely want to honor them.
Well, in North Dakota, the state that you're speaking to right now, we have different institutions that are very passionate about turning out nurses, that giving people an opportunity to succeed in the medical field as a nurse. And we're not filling those slots as much as what we used to. And so I have to ask you this. Why are less people going into a field that is so honorable as what nursing is?
It is honorable, and I think like many of our honorable fields, like teaching and even psychology roles, they're hard to fill because people know that these are callings. They're not jobs. They are calling. So being called to serve in this way and pour out your life and go through things that most people can't understand is part of the work of being a nurse. It's a very noble profession, and not everybody can do it.
I have to ask you this because, and I'm not trying to look for more money for me or my family, but the separation between other individuals that walk into that room and provide a level of health care is getting so wide between the physicians, for example, and the nurses. And how do we fix that? I mean, how do we realize, this is my bias, who in that room is so incredibly important to that patient and yet not compensated anywhere near other individuals who walk into that room?
It is an interesting thing, isn't it? That patients would say, like, I remember when I had my 2 kids, and I remember those nurses. I remember their names, and they were the ones that were in the trenches with me that day. And I think we've all had that experience. And so I think really the solution comes from really understanding what they do and what their value is to us as patients. When we come in and we're in the care of an amazing nurse, it's really, it can't be substituted, for anyone else. And so really valuing it is the key, I think.
What's it been like during a pandemic? When this first hit, and that fear was out there before a lot of the science was known, nurses were still needed. And, I'll give you an example of what happened to Sue, which was, there's a long-term care facility here in the Fargo area, in the South Fargo area, and they had an outbreak of COVID. And by outbreak, they didn't know how extensive it was. You take some of the individuals that were asked or could have gone in to do the testing, they were afraid. And I don't blame them one bit for being afraid. And Sue and others in more of the administrative fields, they went. They did what they should have and needed to do. And so that's about as front line as what you can get. And so those nurses that wouldn't go, I don't blame. I don't blame because they knew so little about it then. But the stress, the trauma, the guilt, everything that goes along with that, if you could, please speak to it.
Yeah, they got called into service like our war fighters get called into war. And our strongest and our bravest are still afraid. Many times when they go to battle, it's not that they're not afraid, it's just that they answer that call despite their fear. We didn't know anything about COVID, to your point, and so it was all unknown. It was highly anxiety producing, it still is. And they went in without proper protection and without information that they needed to keep themselves safe. And they made sacrifices like our war fighters that are often overlooked. They often separated themselves from their families. They worked long shifts. They were absolutely helpless, especially in those early days in the face of a high volume of deaths. And to actually put this in context, I would say, Joel, that the way that situation unfolded was as bad as a combat medic in a war zone in terms of the number of deaths that they were experiencing in the early days. So it definitely is a calling, and not everybody can do this work.
How many, is there a percentage that contracted COVID? Is there the reason I'm asking, doctor, is because I've had COVID. And I've spoke to individuals in the medical field about certain things that have happened to me, and that still continue to happen to me. I'm one of those. I get dizzy. I do if I get up too quickly. That used to only be in the morning, and that's not the case anymore at all. And that's an aside of what we're talking about. And so are there nurses that paid that price by simply going to work?
Absolutely, they did. And some people, to your point, experience long-haul COVID symptoms. But there is also, in addition to the emotional impact, the trauma impact, trauma causes a biological injury that can lock us in a state of fight or flight, where we have these symptoms of trauma exposure, this biological injury, and it will last until it's treated. And that's why my organization is really getting in there in our way on the front lines of care and treating the biological injury of trauma.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, I really can. You know, there's different points in everybody's life that they want to forget and they're never going to be able to forget. And so how you deal with what you saw, seen, worked with, I can only imagine, because I wasn't on that front line like they were. Are we losing them? Are we losing them in many ways? You go ahead and take that question in the way that you think about it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Trauma rips our life into two pieces. There's before and there's after. And it is the most common thing that can change your whole life. And what we know at Stella is that when a trauma happens, people can be in a chronic threat response state where everything after that point is filtered through a sort of sense of threat. And that can shrink our lives down. It can change our relationships with the people that we love, how safe we feel, and even in our own bodies. If we can get calm in our own bodies, can really change when we're injured in that way. So I do think that there's a grave risk to our nursing professionals, but I also know that there are treatments that work. And I've seen some of the new innovations in treatment, so I'm hopeful that there are ways we can address this.
Do they do it? Do they come and do they sit down with somebody and have that conversation? Are the providers, the individuals that ask them every day to go to work saying, look, you know, we need to instill a program here where individuals, you know, we recognize what they did. And so we give them an opportunity to speak to individuals like Stella about what they're going through. And so are the people that employ nurses getting it as well?
Well, we're trying to get the word out. Stella treats people with a biological treatment that resets the fight or flight system. So that's our part of the equation. And then the nurses also need docs who get it. And so we ask them to continue with therapy if they're in it, or get a therapist if they don't have one. And the peer support of their tribe. People that really understand what they're going through are critical in terms of healing from trauma. So in my opinion, it's the combination of biological treatment like what Stella offers and the psychological and emotional treatment of therapy and peer support that really can heal us.
Well, I can tell you this, Dr. Springer, I look over your left shoulder and I see a degree from Harvard. And what I know about that is you're pretty bright. And I'll take that any day of the week. If you can understand the psychology of an individual, you know, I think that that's really important that people look at individuals like you for leadership, because tomorrow is National Nurses Day. So it's maybe incumbent upon all of us to look to that nurse that's in our life and thank them, because I think that alone will matter a lot.
Absolutely agree. It's been a pleasure. I'm happy to come on anytime you want.
You bet. Dr. Springer, appreciate it. Folks, when we come back, Kim Jondahl is going to join us. State Historical Society of North Dakota. What's going to be going on now that we're opening up the doors again? We'll find out as we go down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money. So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Watch No Filter with me, Debbie Schlussel, for no-nonsense, unfiltered analysis of the news that matters to you. You'll see engaging guests.
It began a 444-day nightmare.
Entertaining analysis. And it has everything to do with something that happened in history. And honest movie reviews. Trust me, this is just atrocious. No Filter with Debbie, weeknights at 10 p.m. Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
This is always a lot of fun, and I hope you take advantage of the work that they do, the history of who we are here in the great state of North Dakota. Kim Jondahl joins us right now. Kim is with the State Historical Society of North Dakota. Kim, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you, Joel. It's great to be here. We appreciate it.
You didn't exactly slow down during COVID, the way it sounds. You were still out there collecting stories, items. Give me an example of what COVID did to you and your staff.
We have not slowed down one bit. I think it's actually been busier than ever. One of the things we did for the public was started a Share Your COVID Story initiative so that people can share their experiences, share some of the signage from businesses, whether it's an individual or a business or a healthcare organization, so that we can keep those stories and have those 100 years ago from now to tell grandchildren and great-grandchildren what happened during this time in history.
Good. Thank you. That was in my notes because, you know, my grandkids' kids are going to look back at this time in history. They're going to be taught about it, but they're not going to be able to see it. And that's what you do so incredibly well. Going back to the early 1900s, you know, did you notice? Well, you did notice because it's the world you live in. But everybody was going back and saying, okay, what was it like then? What were they doing then? Were they wearing masks then? How were they living their lives then? And it goes beyond human interest as much as what it goes directly to science in this case.
Absolutely. You know, and the other part that people really relate to, whether it's the 1900 story or today's pandemic story, is those personal stories of what people were going through. We have people that have contributed oral histories, contributed their journals about what they were going through as a pregnant woman, as a nurse in a hospital and caring for her own family. Those types of stories really make it personal for people and build that interest.
I'm looking over your right shoulder to my left. I know you've got a new exhibit, Fashion and Function, North Dakota style. Talk to me about this.
We do. We're really excited about this exhibit, Joel. We just opened it within the past month. It's our largest clothing exhibit ever, and actually it's probably the exhibit we've used the most artifacts in. We have 400 pieces of clothing in this exhibit, as well as 30 loans of clothing. And then we also have more than 120 photographs in this exhibit. So we're covering the history of clothing in North Dakota, talking about both the fashion and the functionality. So there's something in here for everyone, whether you want to see a firefighter's uniform, whether you want to see our newest thing, which is the protective equipment that healthcare workers are using in the hospitals today, or whether it's our oldest piece in this exhibit, which is an 1861 Icelandic wedding gown. So behind me is our Indigenous Ingenuity section of this exhibit, and it showcases some historic pieces as well as a couple of pieces done by designers today. Norma Baker Flying Horse and Lauren Goodday both have beautiful contemporary pieces. If you look at the turquoise gown behind me, that was worn for the Grammys and the Oscar Awards, and she was the first Indigenous designer to be on the runway with those.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Whenever I see fashion, whenever I see garments, and usually for me it's something in relation to what the country was going through at times of war. I mean, I've seen those Civil War outfits that both the South and the North have worn. They're always so small. They're always, you know, the individuals that wore them were so small. And I don't know if that's a bias that I have, but I'm curious if that's what you see when you see some of the exhibit.
It actually is a reality, Joel. We've, especially looking at the women's dresses, they have tiny, tiny waists in these dresses, and they're much shorter than we are. And a lot of that goes to nutrition, and we have better foods, better nutrition, longer lifespans. All of those things contribute to that. But there's a definite change over the generations.
I love the fact that included in this exhibit is a big part of who we are before people like me got here. Which is Native American, which is the beauty of Native American style and what they wore. How were you able to get your hands around that and to make sure it was part of the exhibit?
That's been part of this planning from day one. You know, the indigenous people of North Dakota and the earliest people of North Dakota are extremely important. They're our first history. So as far as people go, so they're definitely included in here, and we have an extraordinary collection of Native American artifacts. So like behind me, it shows, for instance, the historic use of cowrie shells in garments, and Lauren Goodday's contemporary approach of the cowrie shell on the beautiful black and white dress with the red belt behind me. So it's an extremely important part of this exhibit, as well as other ethnic cultures too. We have, you know, the Scandinavians, the Germans, a lot of different cultures represented, because that is North Dakota.
You know, I've got to throw this out. You know, right now we're sitting here having a conversation on TV, and I'm not wearing a tie. That would have been unheard of for generations before me. That being said, it's okay now. You know, people that watch this show are going to see me in a sweater. They're going to see me pretty soon in short sleeve shirts because it's going to be summer. And that's the attitude I kind of want to have on this show. What I'm leading up to is, do we dress as well now as what they did then? The beauty of the clothing and the standard of what you should dress as. I mean, do we dress anywhere near the quality of what they did then?
I think it depends on your occupation, and it also depends on where you're going. We have, for instance, a collection in this exhibit of all of the living First Ladies' coronation gowns and other dresses that they've worn. So you'll definitely notice what decade they're from as you look at those dresses, up to Catherine Burgham's, you know, above the knee length skirt on her gown that she wore. But you'll see some ties in the exhibit as well. We have Lawrence Welk's suit. We have a suit from our governor and some other things. But I really think, you know, with the pandemic, of course, things have gotten more casual, and of course some pajama pants at home with maybe the suit jacket and the necktie above. But trends seem to be going a little more casual everywhere. But again, it depends on where you're going and what you do.
So, is it free? If people want to, I got 6 grandkids. If I want to take them there and teach them to behave and yet look at a big part of our history, how much am I going to have to pay?
It is absolutely free. We're open every day of the week except some holidays. And so it's a beautiful thing that the legislature put in place for North Dakotans. This is all free for everyone to come in and see. And I would also encourage people to go out to our state historic sites as well this summer. Whenever people are ready to be out there again, and we have some fabulous places. So take a day trip or a road trip and come and see what's new at the sites as well.
That I will absolutely vouch for, because when I see the sign, I usually find. There's no question about that. So where do they find the exhibit you're talking about right now?
We're in Bismarck at the North Dakota Heritage Center and State Museum for the Fashion and Function exhibit. And you can find a lot more about all of our exhibits and our state historic sites if you go to history.nd.gov.
Kim Jondahl, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, because you know what? It's important for everybody. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be here, Joel.
When we come back, we're going to have some closing comments for you. So stick around. More coming your way right here as we go down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc. Yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Maid and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Well, it's been another fun trip going down the road with you. I want to end today's show with some closing comments about what Governor Burgum did. Governor Burgum decided to pull the extra $300 that the federal government was offering for those individuals that were unemployed. Now, that extra $300 was per week. So, you know, do the math. It ended up being $1,200 a month. There's a lot of people who believe that that was a disincentive for individuals to go back to work. Now, there's no question that with today's economy, we're looking for workers. We are. We're looking for workers. And so for me personally, I supported the governor. I think it's the right move at a time when you have that opportunity to go back to work and you have the ability to go back to work, It's time. It really is time. And so I think the governor's doing the right thing. And he's doing what many governors before him across the country have done. In Montana, they're taking that $300 a week and they're putting it in the form of a $1,200 check for the first 4 weeks that you go back to work. And so they're still taking the federal money. They're just doing it as more or less a reward after the first month. So you can be employed. You can get all of the things that you normally can get as an employee and yet still get the $1,200. Just a little incentive, just a little carrot and stick. But I do want to talk to you, and we're going to do more on this another day down the road, about who truly was being subsidized. Because all these individuals who talk about these employees being subsidized, for me personally, that's a bunch of bunk. Yeah, they got more money than what they would have being unemployed during this pandemic. But who was being subsidized? For those workers to be there when business was better, to be able to hire them back, that means that the business was receiving the benefit of that. Now, there's other individuals, businesses, that did just great during the pandemic that benefited in the form of PPP loans, right? And they weren't loans, they were grants. And so we need to talk about that someday. We need to get into the fine details of that. Because if you truly want a workforce that's ready to go to work, you cannot do it without talking about daycare. You just can't. Folks, been good riding with you.